Welcome. Thank you all for being here today as we focus on issues specific to Turkey and the Middle East. As always, a quick disclaimer. So please take a second to read what is on the screen, but it basically says that this webinar is for informational purposes only. It is not legal advice. You will come in the next slides to learn that I'm a lawyer, but I am not your lawyer. Next up, some housekeeping. If you have questions, please submit them via the GoToWebinar questions panel, and our team will make sure to follow up via email. This presentation is also being recorded, and you will receive the recording in a few days. So if you think it merits sharing with someone on your team, you will absolutely be able to do so. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Neve Lewis, and I am G2 Risk Solutions Vice President of Compliance Operations. I oversee our global team of over 100 analysts. By way of background, as I mentioned earlier, I am a regulatory attorney. I specialize in food, drug, and pharmacy law and other high-risk areas.
Hi, and I'm Leanne Avis. I have been with G2 Risk Solutions for about 9.5 years now as a dedicated customer success manager, driving our client success and ensuring that G2 Risk Solutions services deliver maximum value. By building strong client relationships, clearly taking a lot of pride in understanding our customers' needs and ensuring that we are delivering always exceptional results. I currently reside in England with my young family, and I am honoured to partner with many of G2 Risk Solutions' valued customers all around the globe. We're just going to take a quick look at the agenda that we have for you today. Firstly, covering e-commerce growth in, of course, Turkey and the Middle East. Then looking at regional hot topics and regulatory changes related to the payment industry. And finally, we're going to talk about how best to navigate risk and drive growth throughout the merchant lifecycle.
So let's start by quickly covering the growth of e-commerce in the region. So you can see all the data on the screen, but I'm going to cover it anyways. Have to do something. Obviously, there has been and continues to be an e-commerce boom in Turkey. We're starting with Turkey. Between 2019 and 2023, Turkey experienced a 13-fold increase in e-commerce volume and a 29-fold increase in retail e-commerce volume. So Turkey is considered one of the most promising markets for e-commerce growth, driven by certain things that are global and some that are specific to the region. So rapid digital transformation, that's global. Turkey's strategic location near key markets, that's regional. And Turkey's very young population. According to the Turkish Ministry of Trade, in 2023, Turkey ranked as the 12th largest economy in the world and the 4th largest in Europe. I checked the data for 2025, and sources vary, but Turkey is always in the top 20 largest economies in the world. So now let's take a look at the Middle East. The same is essentially true there as well. So the region's e-commerce market reached almost $2 billion in 2024. The compounded annual growth rate between 2025 and 2033 is projected to be almost 22%, with a market size of almost $11 billion by 2033. So now we need to know, why is the e-commerce sector growing so quickly? Well, experts say that, again, it's a combination of digitization, younger populations, and technological advancements. So whenever you have e-commerce growth, you also always have a growth in fraud. And fraud has become more sophisticated and disruptive with a rise in AI-powered scams, the bulk creation of synthetic identities, and sort of en masse stolen credit card data. And so fraud is on the rise globally, and Turkey and the Middle East are no exception. So for example, in 2023, the Turkish Public Prosecutor's Office received nearly 1 million fraud-related cases. More recently, just 3 days ago, the Egypt Post warned citizens of increasing numbers of online scam attempts. So fraud is just sort of, it's now part and parcel of our everyday lives. Experts forecast that global e-commerce fraud will more than double in the next 5 years, going from 44 billion US dollars in 2024 to 107 billion US dollars in 2029. So with that background, you've got this massive increase in e-commerce in the region, plus this ever looming and growing threat of fraud and illegal activity. Let's dive into some payment trends that are affecting specifically Turkey and the Middle East. So regulators worldwide are really focusing on scams. So I said we were going to go specific, and we are going to go regionally specific, but I'm going to give some sort of global overview of how these problems are really affecting the world globally, right? So in March 2024, the United Kingdom's government hosted a global fraud summit. It was attended by representatives from 11 countries, plus Interpol, representatives from the EU and others. And they agreed on a global framework to tackle fraud, and they collectively agreed that fraud is an increasing transnational threat. After that meeting, Interpol launched Operation First Light, which targeted scams, including fake online shopping sites. Interpol seized assets as part of that operation worth 257 million US dollars, and they arrested almost 4,000 suspects, with thousands of others identified for follow-up. And then that's sort of the global setting, but regulators in the Middle East are also focusing on scams. The Bank of Israel recently published a report that warned about surging financial fraud driven by AI and social engineering. The report outlines just a massive increase in scams targeting Israelis, including fake websites impersonating brands like Zara and Shufersal. The bank also pushed for the creation of a national authority dedicated to leading prevention efforts. In Saudi Arabia, the Ministry of Commerce recently urged consumers to verify the authenticity of an online store's website by checking the commercial registration number or the freelancer license against the government registry. This information is required to be on the websites. And this push for consumers to check the regulatory databases is specifically because of the noted rise in fraudulent e-commerce businesses in that country. So finally, there are always spikes in e-commerce fraud related to certain holidays or large sporting events. As Eid approaches, Abu Dhabi police have warned residents to be on alert for online fraud involving either charitable donations or livestock purchases. So let's move on to tainted nutraceuticals. So this again is another global issue, but it is also affecting the region of Turkey and the Middle East. So what is a tainted nutraceutical? It is a food supplement or a product marketed as an herbal remedy, and it contains undeclared ingredients. So ingredients that are not on the product label. Typically, these ingredients are prescription-only drugs. They could be harmful botanical ingredients, or they could be sort of stimulants that are not approved for use. The top 3 categories of tainted nutraceuticals are sexual enhancement supplements, weight loss supplements, and bodybuilding supplements. Sort of goes to the basics of where humans feel insecure. Sexual enhancement supplements are far and away the most common type of tainted nutraceutical. They are often tainted with sildenafil, which is the active pharmaceutical ingredient in Viagra, or tadalafil, which is the active ingredient in Cialis. So regulators are testing these products, and the regulators that most frequently test and report these products are the US Food and Drug Administration, Australia's Therapeutic Goods Administration, Health Canada, Singapore's Health Sciences Authority, Hong Kong's Department of Health, and then we also see testing from EU regulators. So G2 Risk Solution reports these products to clients all over the world. If one regulator tests a product and finds that it contains an undeclared ingredient, then that becomes a problem globally because the card brands issue assessments for those products globally. Of course, we always check to make sure the products match the image on the regulatory alert. It's not okay just to have the same name. It has to literally match what is being warned about. Regulators are testing these products every week. Every week we get a new alert. The good news for payment providers in the Middle East is that one regional regulator, Abu Dhabi, tracks adulterated products. Adulterated just means the same thing as sort of undeclared ingredients. It's a product that has an ingredient that isn't disclosed. And so Abu Dhabi tracks adulterated products globally from regulators all over the world, and then they publish them in a combined list with images. So if you are interested in obtaining the link to that list, please reach out and we will share it with you. Moving on to e-cigarettes. Regulators all over the world, again, are reevaluating how they regulate e-cigarettes, also known as vapes. So for example, this year alone, 3 countries in Europe have banned disposable vapes. So not all vapes, just disposable vapes. Belgium's ban went into effect on January 1st of 2025. France's ban went into effect at the end of February. And the UK ban on all disposable vapes is just going to go into effect in a couple days on June 1st. Some countries around the world, of course, ban e-cigarettes entirely. So for example, in Latin America, e-cigarettes, whether or not they're disposable, just all e-cigarettes are banned in a number of countries. And I'm not going to give you the laundry list here, but it includes Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, and Venezuela. And likewise, in the Middle East, as you can see on the screen, e-cigarettes are entirely banned in several countries, including Iran, Iraq, Qatar, Syria, and Turkey. But they are also permitted, albeit regulated, in countries such as Israel, Jordan, and Kuwait. So if you're onboarding an e-cigarette merchant, you need to make sure that they limit shipping to those countries where it is legal to do so. And G2RS is seeing an increase in assessments where merchants are located in one jurisdiction, but where a product is totally legal, but they are shipping to another jurisdiction where the product is illegal. That shipping issue is really coming into play for assessments. So if you have a vape merchant located in Israel, but they offer to ship to Turkey, that will open you up to card brand assessments. So the top 3 risk categories for G2RS clients in Turkey and the Middle East are illegal pharma, illegal gambling, and IP rights violations. And these always involve transaction laundering. So the next few slides I'm going to go through are going to show examples of transaction laundering in these 3 risk categories that have been caught by G2 Risk Solutions Transaction Laundering Detection Team, which is a mouthful, and then shared with clients. And then those clients quickly move to remove these bad actors out of their portfolios. So I'm assuming that almost everyone on this call knows what transaction laundering is, but just in case, that I'm going to quickly go over it. Transaction laundering is when criminals obtain a merchant account for a very benign looking business, say a shoe store, but then they use it to process transactions secretly for an illegal operation. So G2RS's transaction laundering detection team routinely tracks down the violating website, the bad website, the illegal gambling, the illegal drugs, and we run test transactions that are set to decline because we don't actually want to buy illegal drugs and we don't want to gamble illegally. And so here is an example of a test transaction that our team ran on a website that was selling steroids. We actually connected it to several websites that were selling steroids without requiring a prescription or without being licensed as a pharmacy. So our analyst went to this website and we attempted to purchase nandrolone, which is an anabolic steroid that is commonly abused by bodybuilders. As we started the checkout process, we were warned, see in the little red box, you can see it, we were warned that it would say Diva Girl on the credit card statement. So that is obviously a red flag. Then when we actually went to checkout, there was a Diva Girl logo, you can see that in pink, at the place where we were entering our credit card. We also then received Diva Dubai at checkout. So using information that we obtained from the billing descriptor, we were able to connect those steroid selling websites to this dress merchant named Diva Girls. And as you can see on the screen, the logo is an exact match, and there were other connecting information in the billing descriptor. So moving on to illegal gambling. Illegal online gambling is the biggest category for assessments in the Middle East and Turkey, and it always involves transaction laundering. So here we have an example connected to a merchant located in Jordan. G2 Risk Solutions transaction laundering detection team ran a test transaction on the gambling website you see on the screen. We attempted to input $100 US into our gambling account, and we received the following billing information. I blacked out the names on the front website to protect the guilty folks, but the front merchant was pretending to be a fintech consultant. So then using that data from the billing descriptor, we found the matching website, which again, I sort of blocked out all the information. We reported that to our client so they could then remove it from their portfolio before they received an assessment from the card brands. Finally, let us take a look at intellectual property violations in the region. So illegal counterfeit goods are definitely a problem in the Middle East. In 2024, Dubai Customs announced the seizure of almost $11 million counterfeit goods, resulting in a total of 54 enforcement actions against infringements on IP rights. So here's an example of illegal streaming in Turkey. So this is not an illegal good, but it is an IP rights violation. The violating website is offering streaming plans. So when we went through the payment process, you can see the payments page here, we were immediately redirected to the front site for payments. There we go. So that's the front site. There was no need to sort of do the matchup because we were immediately redirected to that front site. So we knew exactly that that was a match. So with all that regional background, I am now going to hand things off to Leanne to discuss how to navigate these high-risk categories while also growing revenue.
Thank you so much, Neve. If only all the cases were as easy and straightforward as that previous one. But obviously, as we know, it is critical to monitor your merchants throughout that entire merchant life cycle. Merchant risk can increase or change altogether over time. So having that full visibility of your portfolio is, of course, crucial. The merchant lifecycle, as we know, starts with onboarding. So if a merchant services or merchant account is approved, we then should move that into the ongoing monitoring phase. These modules include content monitoring and, of course, transaction laundering detection. You may also then decide to engage in periodic re-underwriting. This is the re-reviewing of merchants after perhaps a specific time period or processing threshold, especially for those higher risk merchants. So here at G2, we offer that entire merchant risk workflow in one seamless interface. So the platform supports that life cycle in one easy, accessible place. that life cycle beginning with merchant onboarding, where the first risk assessment of a merchant is really the first step in understanding that risk and preventing a bad actor from entering your portfolio in the first place. Using G2 Risk Solutions global onboarding to make those strategic underwriting decisions, ensuring that approved merchants are then added to ongoing monitoring with just one click. We then head into the ongoing monitoring itself. So by utilising G2 Risk Solutions persistent merchant monitoring and transaction laundering detection, we're ensuring that your risk and compliance needs are covered throughout that entire journey. So we're going to look at those solutions in slightly more depth, starting of course with the onboarding. Global onboarding is highly configurable. Clients can choose a selection or all of the available components that you can see there on the screen, depending on the type of merchant that you're currently reviewing. So this starts with understanding how the merchant has behaved in the past. Our merchant risk history offers an invaluable insight during that onboarding process, highlighting any previous offences spanning over our 20 years of proprietary monitoring data. We've looked at the risk history, but what about now? What is the merchant offering today that, does it meet current regulations? Has it diversified? What about your risk tolerances? The content review module presents any current risks, allowing for present day insights too. Moving into sanctions and watchlist screening, using 1800 data sources, we can show merchant presence on any of the watch lists or sanctions that could exclude a merchant or indicate further risk. Consumer ratings and adverse media highlights any presence and ratings, and of course this can indicate how your merchant is behaving and interacting with their customers. This of course can impact your organisation and brand, especially from a reputational standpoint. The final module that you see there on the screen, our operational risk policies. So is the merchant mature? Are they capable of operating at the scale expected? Ensuring expected business policies available for you to view, highlighting any risk indicators within the merchant setup, such as invalid emails, for example. Results can be made available via our automated version, meaning the broadest and deepest understanding of merchant risk as quickly as possible. We also offer analyst view options, where our dedicated G2 risk solution analyst leverages years of expertise and of course human insight to deliver context-aware reviews. As mentioned earlier, we also support periodic re-underwriting, whether it's every 6 months, annually, or maybe even event-driven. You can send groups of merchants through that process again and again to ensure the level of risk that you originally associated with those merchants is still accurate and up to date, and you're still willing to continue processing for said merchant. Many of our valued clients have transitioned from relying on multiple sources and time-consuming in-house reviews to benefit from this seamless, unified workflow all in one handy place. Moving further into the merchant lifecycle and taking a look at persistent merchant monitoring. So assuming the merchant is approved via your onboarding process, one click enters said merchant into G2 Risk Solutions persistent merchant monitoring. So we take pride in our human and machine-driven content tools, which combine years of deep expertise with the power of advanced technology. This combination enhances reporting accuracy, ensuring that we deliver impactful results and data that you can actually take action on. Ongoing monitoring is of course crucial for several reasons. Firstly, and maybe most importantly, it ensures compliance with regulations and card brand schemes, which is essential for maintaining the ability to process card payments both legally and securely. It also allows you to ensure content compliance at scale, receiving alerts and reports that can be tailored to your specific risk tolerances, allowing you to respond more effectively to any potential threats. We hope that it can reduce your operational overhead by streamlining any internal workflows, and finally helps balance those high risk, high revenue merchant types, enabling you to manage risk effectively while of course still maximising revenue opportunities. Coming into the last piece of the puzzle here, the world of transaction laundering detection. And to recap what Neve said earlier, transaction laundering is when criminals obtain a merchant account for a seemingly low risk business and then of course use it to push transactions from an undisclosed and of course illegally operating site. Our dedicated transaction laundering or TLD team consistently detect these laundering connections by performing trace transactions on the violating sites, connecting those data points back to potentially your merchant portfolio and of course notifying you of any risk. Just like Neve's example that she mentioned with the fintech front site that we actually found to be laundering for an array of illegal gaming. So we do have different methods that we use to protect our clients' portfolio from unwanted laundering connections. And as you can see here on the screen, a quick example of how we do that. So the merchant URL, merchant website, was ingested into ongoing monitoring and therefore G2 Risk Solutions merchant map. Now our merchant map is our hub of over 20 years worth of global monitoring history, data points, known violators, all in one area that is accessed, can be accessed and that you can benefit from. Here is where we actually received a match against the merchant's registrant data. These data points had been through G2's doors previously, and so our TLD team investigated further. They knew the crumbs to follow, basically. We found further connections to a known launderer that was actually pushing payments for illegal drugs. And actually, in fact, there were multiple related laundering merchants that our expert analyst had mapped and therefore found a huge database of known launderers, allowing us to uncover a transaction laundering ring. We, of course, notified our valued client who clearly stopped processing immediately and took the necessary action. And this is just one case of, many cases, but our dedicated team are completing thousands of traces per month with the goal to prevent bad actors from infiltrating our ecosystem and the payments ecosystem, and most importantly with our goal to protect our valued customers. Just concluding here, there was a lot of information shared today, and obviously we hope it's been super helpful to you. But if you do have any questions, please feel free to submit them through the questions section of the panel, and we'll be sure to follow up. We also have several resources available for you which have been posted in the handout section. We'd be very happy to hear from you, and we are very, very grateful. Thank you for joining us today as we've explored the evolving landscape of merchant risk in Turkey and the wider Middle East. On behalf of Neve and myself, we truly hope the insights shared today were helpful, and we are here to support, so please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you so much.